All right, folks, we're live. Thank you for being here. I am Pepper, and this is Godly Trading. Let me know in the chat if the sound is all right. I want to let you know that we are going to be here every Wednesday afternoon at this time, going through a Bible study for traders. You may think, well, what in the world does trading have to do with the Bible? Or what does the Bible have to do with trading? Well, stick around and find out. For this particular study, we're going to be going through the fruit of the Spirit. Wrote a book about that. If you want more information there's a link down in the description. Best way to get started would be to tell you my favorite story about this. So there's a guy, he's walking down the street, and falls into a hole. And he looks up and he sees all the people walking by. And suddenly he sees this priest walk by. He goes, hey, Father, I fell down in this hole. Can you help me out? This priest looks down and sees his parishioner down there, so he writes him out a prayer and throws it down in the hole and says, bless you, my son, and walks on by. Pretty soon another guy walks by and he's his doctor. He goes, hey, doc, I'm down in this hole. Can you help me out? The doctor writes him out a prescription and throws him down in the hole and keeps on going about his day. Then he sees his buddy Bob walk by. Now, at this point, he had been really depressed, really discouraged, just ready to curl up into a ball and quit till he sees his buddy Bob. He goes, hey, Bob, I'm down in this hole. Can you help me out? Before he knows it, Bob jumps down in the hole and he goes, what are you doing? Now we're both stuck down in this hole. He goes, yeah, but I've been in here before. I know the way out. And to me, that is the perfect example of why we are here. Look, I have been down in that hole. And now I hope to play the role of Bob. And you may recognize parts of that story from the story of the Good Samaritan. It is from, give me one second. It is from Luke. There we go. It is from Luke chapter 10. Interestingly enough, the title of this section here is the parable of the Good Samaritan, but he's never actually called the Good Samaritan. I guess King James added that. But anyway, so Luke 10:25. It says, and behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him. That was an interesting move on his part, and said, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And he, Jesus, said to him, the lawyer, what is written in the law? What is your reading of it? In other words, what does the law say, and what do you think about what the law says? So the lawyer, answered and said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he, Jesus, said to him, you have answered rightly. Do this and you will live. But he, the lawyer, wanted to justify himself. Boy, don't we all do that from time to time? Hey, God, look at me. All right? He wanted to justify himself and says to Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Like, I don't want to just be nice to everybody. Then Jesus answered and said, this is a parable here. A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Jerusalem's up on a hill, therefore everything's to go up to Jerusalem and come down from Jerusalem. So he goes down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among thieves who stripped him of his clothing and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a certain priest came down the road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In our story, at least, the priest, wrote him out a prayer. Likewise, a Levite, somebody who works in the church, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side. So these guys don't even want to get anywhere near it. But a certain Samaritan, these are the people that were the Jews of the time would have referenced them as half-breeds, right? These are the ones who couldn't trace their lineage after the exile and the return. So a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was. And when he, the Samaritan, saw him, the man without a name, he had compassion. So he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. And he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I come again, I will repay you. There's a whole lesson there that we'll get into. Myron Golden does it better. Bishop Malcolm does it great. About, you have to have means in order to help people. We're not going to get into that. Verse 36, Jesus back talking to the lawyer. So which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to him who fell among the thieves? And he, the lawyer, says, he who showed mercy on him. Then Jesus tells him, go and do likewise. So, I have been the nameless guy who was set upon. I have been the guy down in that hole, and I have been miserable. Let's see if I can get my PowerPoint to work here. There we go. I have done, when it comes to trading, I have done all the wrong things. There was a time in my life when trading, which was supposed to be a joy, trading, which is supposed to be this amazing opportunity and a way out to provide for my family and long-term financial success, I was just so miserable. I was down in that hole. And I remember it clearly to this day. I was driving to work. This was back during my day trading days. I was driving to work, and I was already pre-frustrated. Right? Yeah, I'm sure y'all have been pre-mad before. I was pre-frustrated. I was already, before they even opened my charts, already frustrated. I was already pre-miserable, just sort of in a cloud of gloom and doom as I'm driving to work. That's an hour before I'm opening my charts. And I remember hearing, like from the back seat, this voice. Obviously, I didn't hear a real voice, but I could hear it in my head that says, "Aren't you tired of feeling this way?" And, we call it our come to Jesus moment. Not my actual come to Jesus moment, but this is one of a couple of come to Jesus moments that I had regarding my trading. And I realized that one of the reasons I was so miserable was all of my focus was on me. It was my wins and losses, my strategy, my adherence to my plan or lack thereof. I never involved God in any of it. Never prayed for his wisdom. Never prayed for his blessing. Never gave him any thanks for anything positive that had happened. There's a whole backstory. I go into it in a little bit of a lurid detail there in the book about some things that we've all done those things, right? You're holding on to trades when you shouldn't. You're jumping. You're over trading. All of those things. And I was just so miserable. And I was the bottom of my. Here's the thing about being in the bottom of a pit, right? You have fallen as far as you can fall. Your option, from a trading standpoint, when you get to that point where you're just so miserable, you have two options. Number one, you can quit. Or number two, you can change. And that day, driving to work, I had a choice. Am I going to quit or am I going to change? And I decided to make a change. I decided to start looking at biblical principles. I decided to bring God back into my trading, have an actual purpose for what I was doing. And that goes into why we are doing this. Look, there are lots of reasons to. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat there. There are lots of reasons to trade. There are lots of opportunities out there for people to earn extra money. Trading is just one of them, right? If I was into, I don't know, pottery, this channel would be a lot different. So why did I pick trading in particular? Well, number one, I mentioned freedom. Trading is an amazing opportunity, as we all know, to help benefit our families, usually, at least at first, on the side. But here's the thing that I have learned a lot in the last few months is, for me, and I think a lot of people, trading is a creative outlet. And you may think, well, what are you talking about? It's all numbers and moving averages and probabilities and risk, and it all sounds very boring. Well, the best trading is boring. But there's an element of creativity to that. And that is very important when it comes to you seeking your purpose. If I was to ask you the question, finish the sentence, God is, I'm sure some of you would say, well, God is love, right? God is holy, God is powerful, God is omniscient, God is forgiving. There are lots of, matter of fact, if you can put one in the chat, God is, what would you think would be a good way to finish that sentence? There's a lot of what I have learned in the last couple of months come from a Myron Golden's channel. And the best thing he ever said was, we are so busy trying to get through the word that we're not allowing the word to get through to us. In other words, we're just rushing through our Bible reading. I have done more Bible study in the last 3 months than I have in my entire life. I would have, if you asked me back in February if I did Bible study, I would have said yes. If you asked me somewhere midway through March, about a week into watching his videos, I would have said no, because I'm just rushing through it. But God is here's how we know what God is. God is all those things. God is love. God is holy. God is merciful and forgiving. Yes. The first time something is ever used in the Bible, generally speaking, is God is letting us know the most important aspect of it. I've run across some interesting instances of that. But what is the first thing God tells us about himself? Genesis 1:1. Rashit Elohim, Rashit bara Elohim. Rashit, in the beginning, bara, created, Elohim, God, right? So Hebrew, the verb comes before the noun. The first thing we learn about God, the first thing God tells us about himself, he could have said ahav, which is Hebrew for love. He could have said that. He could have said other things. But the first thing he tells us about himself is that he created, which means he is creative. He's our creator. Later on in Genesis, it says that God breathed into man, right? So he put an element of himself in us. He put his creativity within all of us. And so God is creative, and he puts that in us. And it is incumbent upon us to use that creativity for a higher purpose. Oh, my face is in the way. Let me get rid of my face there. James 1:17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. And again, going to word by word study here, that word perfect, switching over to Greek, that word perfect means complete. It means useful. Every useful gift that he gives us as traders, every good gift that he gives us as traders is perfect. It is complete. It is useful. It is there for us to use. And not just to use for our own, I don't say for our own benefit, but of course we are benefiting ourselves and our families. But ultimately it's to further his kingdom. So I had to discover my purpose in trade. First thing I had to do was discover what is the purpose behind, what is the meaning behind all of this misery that I'm going through. I was miserable as a trader, both in the emotional sense of the term and in the wins and losses sense of the term for quite some time. And I had to overcome one to overcome the other, right? I had to conquer the emotions. And conquering the emotions started with letting go. Ironically, in order to have the most control of your trading, you have to let go of all control. I learned that the purpose can't just be money. I was lifted out of the pit by other people. I would highly recommend, there's a group out there that I was a member of, Trade Masters. I would highly recommend them to anybody. Brian White and Al Mittman helped me through that. I called it like the Great Pepper Meltdown of, was it 2022? It was in March. And I was just like, bless their hearts, turning their chat group into a, not group therapy, because it was all about me. But anyway, my purpose then became, hey, I am out of this pit now. It's time, as Jesus said, go and do likewise. And I think he was talking not only to Bob, the Hebrew guy that had been attacked, his name probably wasn't Bob, and the Good Samaritan, whose name could also have been Bob. For both of these, go and do likewise. You, lawyer, go and be like that Samaritan. But I often wonder in that story, what was the outcome of the fellow? We assume, for no reason, that these parables are fictitious. But there's no real evidence of that. So what happened? Was he like there was a story of Jesus heals the 10 lepers, and only one of them comes back and thanks him. Did the Hebrew fellow who was healed by the Samaritan, the certain Samaritan, not the good Samaritan, the certain Samaritan, did his life change? Did he go and do likewise? So that is why I'm here, to go and do likewise. I have found my purpose. I think every trader needs to find a greater purpose than just making money. Making money is the reason we got into this, but we need to have a further purpose in that. And it is hard to have a greater purpose when you are stuck in misery. One of the things, I call this book here, A Trader's Journey Through the Fruit of the Spirit. It's a journey towards joy. I do the fruit of the Spirit backwards, and we'll get into that next week as to why I do it backwards. But it's a journey towards joy, and it's hard to have a greater purpose when you don't have joy in what you're doing, what the center of that purpose. It's hard to be a chef with purpose if you're miserable as a chef. So I picked chef. So, I mean, we all have jobs. Most of us have jobs. And some of us like those jobs. A lot of us hate those jobs. So we have felt just as unfulfilled in our jobs as some of us may have in trading. This one got me when I dug into the words here. My face is in the way again. Give me 1 second. Nope, that's not it. There we go. This one got me here. So Solomon tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:11, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. That word season means a set time, a specific period in time, an appointed time. And purpose, oh my goodness, purpose means pleasure, desire, that in which one takes delight. That in which one takes delight? Trading? Really? If you had asked me that morning, it was somewhere in October, November of 2022, possibly, I would have said there is no joy in Mudville. There is no delight to be had in trading. But we are supposed to have that. Our purpose, to everything, even in trading, there is a season. There is a particular time and a purpose under heaven, an opportunity for delight, for joy. All right. Sorry about that. Y'all can't see that either. There we go. When is the last time that you took delight in trading? I'm not talking about being excited over an individual trade. I mean, when is the last time that you woke up in the morning, man, I can't wait to trade today, and you ended the day and thought, this was a fantastic day. I had 5 losses in a row, and it was a fantastic day. Now, who in the world is going to celebrate their losses? By the way, just as an aside, we're not going to get into this aspect of it, but we as traders, we've got to stop talking about wins and losses. The English language constrains us in a lot of ways, one of which is we've only got really one word for that, right? So when we think this trade's a loser or this trade was a loss, we internalize that and think that we are a loser. So to as much of an extent as possible, stop referring to your trades as wins and losses. You have profitable trades and unprofitable trades. The only bad trade, the only losing trade is a trade where you broke the rules. But anyway, when's the last time we ended the day with 5 unprofitable trades in a row and thought, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. When's the last time that we were joyful all throughout the day? Rejoice always. Again, I say rejoice. Paul tells us, and the word rejoice means to rejoice again, to have joy again. So have joy again. Again, I tell you, again, have joy again. This is why I wrote the book. Fulfilling our purpose is what gives us the joy, and trading can be that. But you've got to get to that point where you change your mindset. That's the whole thing we're going through here. We are going to be discovering the way, the journey through the fruit of the Spirit, the journey towards that ultimate goal of joy and peace. Love, we're at the end. Love is lanyap, Cajun word for a little something extra. So we're going to be going through that next week, the fruit of the Spirit. Now, I'll tell you that one of the reasons that let me just tell you the story behind how we got here. So I was watching some of Myron Golden's videos, and he was talking about really investigating the words of the Scriptures. And so I was thinking about, I was trading that day, and I was thinking about, hey, we as traders, we need certain attributes, the mindset. I've been a big proponent of trading mindset for a while now. And it wasn't until about 6 to 8 months ago that I ran across a piece of trading psychology self-help. Again, I go into it in the book. The entire term of self-help is in English, it's counterintuitive. But everything the guy was saying was secular, was worldly based. And I thought there's no godly wisdom out there for this. And I was thinking about all the aspects of trading that we need from trading mindset. We need patience. Obviously, we need patience. We need discipline. And I thought, patience and discipline. Those are some fruits of the Spirit. I actually wrote down in my journal, my idea journal, I wonder if the Bible has something to say, if the fruit of the Spirit has something to say about trading. I wonder if you could use that as a framework. And I heard a voice in my head that said, gee, I wonder. Now, God absolutely, I need both hands here. God absolutely does not speak in sarcasm. God is not sarcastic. I'm not trying to say that. However, I do speak in sarcasm. And therefore, I hear, it's like my second language, I hear in sarcasm. So that's what I heard. Oh, gee, I wonder if the fruit of the Spirit would have any applicable use for us as traders. And I heard this voice that, yeah, I wonder. So that's why I set about to write the book. Again, if you'd like a copy, get a link down in the description. We're going to be going through this entire book, all of the fruits of the Spirit, starting next week. And guys, that is it for today. Thank you all for being here. Come back next week. It's going to be every Wednesday, 4 o'clock Central. Next week we're going to start off with the roadmap, how these things are applicable in general. And then each week we're going to go through each fruit one by one as we journey towards joy. So thank you all for being here, and I will see you all